In the vast digital theater of modern life, we have all become performers. Our profiles are our costumes, our posts are our scripts, and our comment sections are our live audience reviews. But for a special class of performer, the professional influencer, this performance is not a part-time hobby. It is a 24/7, high-stakes, all-consuming job. For years, the foundational promise of this new economy was authenticity, a direct, unfiltered, and intimate connection to real people. But today we must confront a difficult and uncomfortable truth. That promise has been fundamentally and perhaps irrevocably broken. The relentless, market-driven demand for authentic content has created a toxic feedback loop, an economy where the performance of authenticity has become infinitely more valuable than authenticity itself. This is not a story about celebrity drama. This is a critical essay about a pervasive cultural sickness. We will use the key events of the creator world, from the corporate-like collapse of the canceled podcast to high-stakes lawsuits over the value of a persona, and bitter artistic feuds fought over narrative control, as symptoms of this larger condition. Our thesis is this: the very structure of the modern influencer economy, driven by the insatiable and often contradictory demands of the audience, has forced creators to transform their entire lives into commodified products. This process leads to inevitable psychological burnout for the creators and a dangerously warped sense of reality for us, the consumers. And perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire equation is that we, the audience, are not innocent bystanders. We are the co-authors of this modern tragedy. To understand how deeply this sickness runs, we must begin with its most potent and heartbreaking symptom: the complete commodification of human connection. The canceled podcast, hosted by Tana Mongeau and Brooke Schofield, was not just a show, it was a product, and the primary marketable ingredient of that product was their friendship. The brand's immense value was directly tied to the audience's deep-seated belief in the raw, unfiltered, and chaotic authenticity of their bond. They weren't just selling stories or jokes, they were selling a vicarious, idealized friendship experience to millions of devoted listeners who craved that kind of intense, ride-or-die connection in their own lives. This business model is inherently parasitic and deeply unstable. It requires a constant, never-ending feed of real, personal moments, intimate fights, vulnerable confessions, private humiliations, to be harvested, processed, and packaged as weekly consumable content. Under this relentless pressure, the friendship was no longer allowed to be a private, evolving, and messy human relationship. It had to perform its function as the primary engine of a multi-million-dollar media machine. This created a nightmarish funhouse mirror effect, where the line between a genuine interaction and a potential podcast segment became hopelessly, and perhaps for them, indistinguishably, blurred. The eventual collapse, therefore, should not be viewed as a simple failure of friendship, but as an inevitable market correction. The product had become too volatile, the human cost for its creators too high to sustain. The aftermath, as we've seen throughout 2025, proves this point. Brooke Schofield's successful rebranding into a more polished, structured media personality is a deliberate move away from the economy of radical chaotic transparency. She is selling a different, more sustainable, and less personally invasive product. Tana's ventures, meanwhile, represent a search for a new formula to recreate that lightning-in-a-bottle authenticity that was lost, a difficult task when the magic was based on a reality that no longer exists. Their story is the ultimate cautionary tale of the creator economy. When you turn your friendship into a product, you inevitably subject it to the brutal and unforgiving laws of the market, where every product has a life cycle, a peak, and an eventual, inevitable expiration date. If friendship is the product, then the trust of the audience is the essential currency used to purchase it. This brings us to the critical financial dimension of our thesis. The value of a top-tier influencer is not in their production quality or their scripted jokes, it is in the powerful and often unexamined parasocial trust they cultivate with their millions of followers. We feel like we know them, so we trust their recommendations, their taste, and their worldview. This deep well of trust is the most valuable and most exploitable natural resource in the entire digital age. The landmark legal battle between Josh Richards and Poppy was, at its core, a fight over the precise monetary value of this trust. What a corporation like Poppy is actually buying when they partner with a creator like Josh Richards is not just ad space. They are buying a temporary infusion of his brand's carefully cultivated trust. They are, in essence, renting his audience's deep-seated belief in his authenticity. The lawsuit arose from a fundamental disagreement over the nature of this transaction. Josh's powerful argument was that his contribution was not a rental, but a foundational, equity-deserving investment. He wasn't a contractor, he was a co-builder, and the primary material he used in that construction was the trust he had spent years painstakingly building with his audience. The massive, rumored settlement is a legal and cultural acknowledgement of this new reality. It financially codifies the idea that a creator's trust is a high-value, tangible asset, but it also exposes the dark and dangerous side of this model. It incentivizes creators to view their audience's trust not as a sacred relational bond, but as a financial asset on a balance sheet, one to be leveraged and maximized for the highest possible return. It turns the creator into a broker, constantly calculating how to best monetize the goodwill and belief of their followers without causing a market crash. This case study reveals the cold, hard math behind the authenticity economy. Parasocial trust is the raw resource. The creator is the factory that processes it, and the final product is a monetizable recommendation that, if betrayed, can lead to a catastrophic loss of value for everyone involved. In a hyper-competitive market where authenticity is the most sought-after product, the most effective way to outperform a competitor is to successfully frame them as inauthentic. This ruthless logic transforms personal conflicts into strategic, public wars over narrative control. The ongoing Cold War between celebrated musicians Lana Del Rey and Ethel Cain is a perfect, if somber, example of this very phenomenon. This conflict is not being fought over chart positions or sales numbers in the traditional sense. It is a bitter and protracted battle for the moral high ground, a fight over which artist has the more legitimate claim to the coveted brand of authenticity. The feud's flashpoint was not the alleged artistic plagiarism, as that is a common and often survivable accusation in music. The conflict truly exploded when it escalated to the deeply personal accusation of body shaming. This was a masterstroke of modern narrative warfare. In the cultural court of public opinion, authenticity is inextricably linked to a set of perceived virtues: vulnerability, kindness, integrity, and empathy. By accusing Ethel Cain of private cruelty, Lana Del Rey was not just airing a personal grievance. She was launching a strategic, surgical attack on the very foundation of Ethel's carefully constructed brand, which is built on a powerful persona of the wounded, empathetic outsider. It was a calculated attempt to create a devastating disconnect between Ethel's public artistic product and her alleged private character. As of September 2025, the war continues, waged not in public statements, but in the coded, allegorical language of their art. Every new song, every somber interview, every cryptic social media post is a carefully crafted piece of their ongoing public testimony. They are each relentlessly performing their own version of authenticity for their respective fan bases. Lana as the wronged, established veteran defending her legacy, and Ethel as the stoic, pure artist taking the moral high road. This demonstrates a key, if grim, principle of the human product economy. When yourself is your brand, any attack on your character is a direct threat to your business. This turns personal disputes into brutal public relations battles, where the ultimate goal is to convince the audience that your opponent's product is, and always has been, a fake. Our relentless demand for constant, unfiltered access to the lives of creators creates the very pressure that forces them to commodify their entire existence. When a creator goes through a public breakup, we don't just watch. We demand daily updates. We analyze every post for hidden meanings. We subscribe to Patreon accounts for the real story. And we reward the creator who gives us the most raw, and vulnerable content with our most valuable resource, our attention. We have inadvertently, and sometimes quite deliberately, created a system that economically incentivizes people to turn their worst, most painful moments into their best performing and most profitable content. In a very real sense, we are the ones who make a friendship breakup more valuable than a stable, happy, and boring friendship. This makes us active and often unacknowledged participants in the system's toxicity. We critique creators for selling out, yet we flock to the most dramatic and marketable personal narratives. We lament the lack of realness online, yet we are often bored by the quiet, undramatic, and often mundane nature of true authenticity. The human product did not create itself in a vacuum. It was created and continues to be refined to meet a very specific and ravenous market demand. Until we, the consumers, fundamentally change our viewing habits and stop rewarding the performance of trauma, the cycle will continue, churning through one creator after another. We are the ones who keep the authenticity machine running, even as we complain about the quality and the human cost of the products it creates. When we view these stories not as isolated dramas, but as interconnected symptoms of a culture grappling with a new and powerful economic and social reality, the picture becomes terrifyingly clear. The creator economy, in its current form, has produced a toxic, self-perpetuating feedback loop. The audience demands a high-stakes performance of authenticity. The creator provides it by commodifying their life, which in turn leads to the inevitable burnout and public collapses that then become the next big authentic content series for us to consume. It is a vicious cycle that damages everyone involved, creating a culture of disposable relationships and performative vulnerability. The Tana Mongeau and Brooke Schofield saga is a stark warning about the fundamental unsustainability of monetizing friendship. The Josh Richards lawsuit is a chilling testament to the cold, hard financialization of human trust. The Lana Del Rey feud shows us how personal narrative has been weaponized into a tool for brand destruction. And our own role as the audience reveals our deep, often uncomfortable complicity in the entire system. Is there a way out of this cycle? Perhaps. A future where audiences learn to reward stability over chaos, where platforms create healthier incentives, and where creators are allowed to maintain a sacred, inviolable line between their private selves and their public product. But this requires a conscious and collective shift in our cultural values, a move away from consumption and towards connection. Until then, we will remain trapped in the spectacle, endlessly scrolling, watching the human products perform, break, and then perform again, all for our fleeting entertainment. The real question is not what's next for them, but what this entire system is doing to the very idea of a private, authentic self.